I feel like I've put enough time into Final Fantasy V now to properly review it. I got to like the final world, right? Xdeath's world, like the combined worlds of like World 1 and 2, and it's one of those things where I'm just like, Final Fantasy VI did this better, right? It was more streamlined. It had like more impact for the characters, right? The pacing made more sense. Like the thing about Final Fantasy V, and I cannot express this enough, is that like the plot is a giant nothing burger, right? Characters come out of nowhere, they're introduced, things happen, and then you have to go somewhere and like do something, right? There's no real nuance, there's no subtlety, there's no like real character development, right? And it's just like it doesn't quite feel like a big waste of time, right? Not quite, but it comes really close. Like I play Final Fantasy for like the intricate plot and the characters, and to see such a poorly handled, like conceived plot that just introduces elements and then just drops them is just baffling to me, right? Like again, when your character shows up in the beginning of the game with his like best friend Chocobo, they establish the relationship, they establish the bond, and then you just leave him behind until like World 3, where you realize that like he started a family. And your character, like an asshole, for some reason, decides to just remove him from his married life to go on another adventure, only to like abandon him again, right? And it's like it's this kind of thing that just makes the game feel really artificial and really fake. Positive aspects aside, right? There are characters and moments that I enjoy. Galuf's death was like really emotional, and like Boris, like being the tomboy she is a lot of fun. Reina is kind of has her moments, right? She's pretty gutsy. Like again, uh, like there are definitely things to like about the game, especially when it comes to like general combat and like character building, right? I think in a lot of ways this is probably one of the best Final Fantasy combat systems I've ever seen, with like the class system and the character building and all the things you can do, like all the nuances you can make to your characters, and just how like difficult the bosses can be as a result. The game throws a lot at you as like an actual game, right? But you find yourself like just kind of really disappointed with like everything else, right? The dungeon design isn't good, the plot isn't there, the villain isn't interesting. Like he legit gets the jump on you by possessing a splinter and getting into one of the character's feet, like toes or something. Like, really? Really? And she like didn't take it out even though she like noticed it was there? Like, really? That's what you come up with? Like I really wonder if like the problem is the localization, because I've noticed like lots of really weird like lines of dialogue that don't make any sense, where like um the characters don't seem to like realize that Forrest is a woman until they get to the sunken ship thing. When I think in the PS1 translation they do, and then they like confront her about it. Like it's like I don't know what like the mindset behind it was. Was it like trying to make it more look more woke than it actually is? Like were they trying to do that? Like I don't know if that's true, but like again, one of my big complaints with like the localizations of these games is that like they seem to have stripped away a lot of like really iconic, memorable lines from like the advanced versions. Right? I didn't grow up with the advanced with the five localization. Right? I've never played Final Fantasy V Advanced, but I have played six Advanced, and I can tell you that like quite a lot of quite a lot of material was changed. Sometimes for the better, but like other times it's just kind of like, really? And like five, I think, like really suffers from that, because five, like, is supposed to be like this really funny, like lighthearted adventure, and I just don't really see it a lot of times. Like, it just feels like, was the game always like this, or is this like just a lesser version of like an English script we've already gotten, right? I certainly haven't seen a lot of people like talk about the localization or talk about this version, but like unlike with Final Fantasy VI, where like there's actually quite a lot of reasons to play it over Advance, specifically the opera scene. I I don't necessarily think that like five has the same benefit, right? Like I have a very hard time believing that Final Fantasy V remastered, the Pixel remastered, is as good as like the advanced release. Like I just don't, right? Like I feel like there had there was like some kind of misstep or some kind of like balancing issue or some kind of like development thing. Like I just don't have faith in Modern Square to put out a product like this. Especially after I played Final Fantasy VI and enjoyed it, but understood that like, there were definitely a lot of things that like I preferred from Final Fantasy VI Advance, right? Like again, I feel like the advanced versions of all these games remain like the definitive versions of the game. I don't know. Did we get a Final Fantasy IV Advance? I don't remember. I think we did, yeah. Um, but yeah, like I I really, 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 really enjoyed a lot of aspects of Final Fantasy V, but I think at this stage it's safe to say that like I don't like it as much as six. I don't like it much as four, as much as the original, as much as seven, as much as 10 even, I think. Like again, like 10 has a lot of problems for sure, but I love, 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 love 10 and everything about it, right? Like 5, like it's like I can't look past the flaws at everything good. Because like ever since I like left the first world, or even before that, when like you do the fetch quest with the meteors, like even before that point, like it felt like a lot of things that were happening was just padding, right? Instead of just getting straight to like the point or whatever. It's like why couldn't you just have like an open world setting, have you like just go around the world and then just like confront enemies while like grinding out your characters? Like if you really wanted to have a story without a plot, like make a story without a plot. Like that's my thing. It's like they kind of like went halfway where they decided like not to put any effort into the script, but then also like decided to have cutscenes that just kind of not quite annoy you, but don't really do anything for you either. It's like, it feels like a massive step down from what I'm used to in Final Fantasy. And I suppose since the last one I played was six, like there's a reason for that. But I'm really interested in seeing just how four holds up. I'm really curious in seeing like if four remastered is like an improved version over like the DS version. I imagine it isn't. I imagine the DS version is like the definitive version, but we're gonna have to see. But until then, I will see you all next time.